Change Your Brain, Change Your Life by Daniel G. Amen, MD. Picture this for a moment. There's a 9-year-old boy in your life, maybe your nephew, your godson, or your best friend's kid. He's an absolute sweetheart. Happy, full of energy, the kind of kid who lights up a room. Then, without warning, everything shifts. That sparkle in his eyes just vanishes. He withdraws into himself. He lashes out. And then he starts drawing pictures that make your blood run cold. Images of himself hanging from a tree, shooting other children. He tells his mother he wants to die, that he wants to hurt people. And one afternoon, on an ordinary baseball field, he attacks a little girl for absolutely no reason. This isn't fiction. This isn't some thriller you'd stream on a Friday night. This was Andrew's reality. His family was living a nightmare. This looked like the next Columbine, the next Aurora, the next Sandy Hook in the making. His mother, Sherry, was desperate. So she reached out to her brother, a psychiatrist who was just starting to explore a completely revolutionary approach to understanding human behavior. That psychiatrist was Dr. Daniel Amen, and what he discovered when he actually looked inside Andrew's brain didn't just save Andrew's life. It shook the entire foundation of how we understand mental health, criminal behavior, and what it even means to be human. It revealed the single most powerful lesson from examining over 100,000 brain scans. And that's exactly what we're unpacking today. Here's the thing. For more than a century, psychiatry has been working essentially in the dark. It's literally the only medical specialty that almost never actually looks at the organ it's supposed to be treating. Think about it. Cardiologists examine the heart. Orthopedists look at bones. But psychiatrists? They're basically making educated guesses. They listen to symptoms, look for patterns, slap on a diagnosis, kind of like doctors were doing back in the 1800s. But Dr. Amen, a guy his own father called a maverick, refused to accept that. His medical journey didn't even start in psychiatry. He began as an X-ray technician in the Army, and his professors drilled one simple, powerful question into his head. How do you know unless you look? That question became his North Star. He carried that philosophy into psychiatry, and it sparked a revolution. His book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, first published in 1998 and later revised and expanded, has sold millions of copies worldwide and been translated into dozens of languages. It's built on one radical promise. You're not stuck with the brain you have. You can actually make it better, and when you upgrade your brain, you upgrade your entire life. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on this revolutionary concept. We're going deep inside the human brain to explore the hidden control systems that run your moods, your focus, your anxiety, and your temper. You'll discover why some people get trapped in negative thought loops, why others can't control their impulses, and why certain relationships seem doomed from the start. Most importantly, you'll learn simple, practical steps you can start taking today to heal and optimize the single most critical organ in your body. This isn't just about understanding your brain. It's about becoming a warrior for its health, so you can unlock your full potential and transform not just your own life, but the lives of everyone around you, even generations to come. When Andrew, that troubled 9-year-old, arrived at Dr. Amen's clinic, everyone knew something was seriously wrong. 9-year-olds don't usually have suicidal and homicidal thoughts. Most psychiatrists would have written a prescription, set up some therapy sessions, and called it a day. But Dr. Amen remembered his training. How do you know unless you look? He needed to see what was actually happening inside Andrew's brain. He ordered a special type of brain scan called a SPECT scan. Unlike an MRI or CT scan, which just show you the brain's structure, like a photograph of a building, a SPECT scan reveals function. It shows blood flow and activity. It tells you which parts of the brain are humming along nicely, which are barely functioning, and which are working overtime. When Andrew's scan popped up on the screen, Dr. Amen thought there'd been some kind of mistake. Andrew's entire left temporal lobe, a crucial region for memory, language, and emotional stability, was just missing. A follow-up MRI revealed the terrifying truth. A golf ball-sized cyst had taken over the space where his temporal lobe should have been, crushing his brain from the inside. This was the source of everything. The rage, the dark thoughts, the aggression. It wasn't a character defect, it wasn't bad parenting or a difficult phase. It was a biological emergency. But convincing the medical establishment of that was a whole different battle. Dr. Amen called pediatric neurologists, the so-called experts. One after another told him the same thing. The cyst probably wasn't related to Andrew's behavior. They wouldn't recommend surgery until he had real symptoms. Real symptoms? Dr. Amen was furious. I have a child with homicidal thoughts who's physically attacking people. How much more real does it need to get? The neurologist's response? Oh, Dr. Amen, when I say real symptoms, I mean things like seizures or speech problems. That was the moment everything crystallized. The medical profession had completely disconnected the brain from behavior. They saw the brain as the source of seizures, sure, but not as the source of rage, violence, or suicidal thoughts. Dr. Amen refused to sit around waiting for Andrew to hurt himself or someone else. He finally tracked down a neurosurgeon at UCLA who'd seen similar cases and agreed to remove the cyst. After surgery, Andrew woke up and smiled at his mother for the first time in over a year. The surgeon later told Dr. Amen that the cyst had put so much pressure on Andrew's brain that it had actually thinned his skull. If he'd taken a baseball to the head, it would have killed him instantly. Within 6 months, he would have been dead anyway. Andrew isn't just a case study in a book. He's Dr. Amen's nephew and godson. His story is the skeleton key that unlocks the central message of change your brain, change your life. Human behavior isn't simply about choice or character. It's deeply, fundamentally rooted in the physical health of your brain. This is the first critical lesson. Your brain is involved in everything you do. How you think, how you feel, how you act, how you connect with other people. It all originates in that 3-pound organ between your ears. When your brain works right, you work right. You're happier, healthier, wealthier, more successful. But when your brain is struggling, for whatever reason, you're much more likely to struggle in life. For decades, psychiatry has been trying to treat the mind without looking at the brain. Dr. Amen argues this is like a cardiologist trying to treat heart disease without ever running an EKG or looking at an image of the heart. It's flying completely blind. Before he started using brain imaging, Dr. Amen felt like he was throwing medication-tipped darts at his patients in the dark. Sometimes he'd hit the target, sometimes he'd miss, and sometimes he'd unintentionally cause harm. He discovered that diagnostic labels like depression, anxiety, or ADD aren't single, simple disorders. They're symptom clusters, kind of like chest pain. Chest pain could be a heart attack, indigestion, or a pulled muscle. You wouldn't treat all three the same way, right? So why do we treat all depression the same way? Dr. Amen shows us SPECT scans of 2 different people diagnosed with depression. They had virtually identical symptoms, but their brains were polar opposites. One brain showed extremely low activity. It was basically asleep, underactive. The other showed massive overactivity. It was completely over-revved and couldn't shut off. Would they respond to the same treatment? Absolutely not. Giving a stimulant to the overactive brain could be catastrophic. Giving a sedative to the underactive brain would just make things worse. This is exactly why the one-size-fits-all approach fails so many people. By examining tens of thousands of brains, Dr. Amen discovered there aren't just single types of these disorders. He's identified at least 7 types of ADD, 7 types of anxiety and depression, 6 types of addicts, and 5 types of overeaters. Each type has a distinct brain pattern and needs a completely different, targeted treatment. This brings us to the second profound insight. Your brain is soft and your skull is hard. Your brain has the consistency of room temperature butter. It's housed inside an incredibly hard skull with lots of sharp, bony ridges. This means your brain is extremely vulnerable to injury. Every time you hit your head, whether it's falling off your bike as a kid, hitting a soccer ball, or getting in a fender bender, your brain can slam against those sharp ridges, causing damage that can last your entire life. Dr. Amen discovered that mild traumatic brain injuries are a major, and often completely hidden, cause of psychiatric issues like depression, panic attacks, ADD, and even homelessness and suicide. Many people don't even remember significant injuries. He has to ask patients 5 or 10 times, getting really specific about things like falling out of trees, car accidents, or contact sports, before they suddenly remember going through a windshield or tumbling off a cliff. Willie's story is particularly chilling. Willie was a friendly A student with a bright future ahead of him, until 2 car accidents left him with what doctors casually called minor concussions. But there was nothing minor about what happened next. His entire personality transformed. He became angry, irritable, paranoid. He gained 70 pounds and developed an obsession with food. His anger zeroed in on his college roommate, who he started viewing as an enemy who was trying to starve him. One afternoon, Willie grabbed a meat cleaver and a butcher knife and waited behind the door, planning to instantaneously dissolve his friend. Thankfully, a sane part of his mind recognized he was spiraling out of control, and he called for help. A SPECT scan revealed the truth. The accidents had damaged his prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that controls judgment and impulse control. They'd also damaged his left temporal lobe, an area linked to aggression, and made another region, the anterior cingulate gyrus, hyperactive, causing him to get stuck on negative paranoid thoughts. Willie wasn't a monster. His brain was broken. With a targeted treatment plan designed to balance these specific brain systems, Willie's sweet, humorous personality returned. He got his life back. It makes you wonder, how many people sitting in prison right now, labeled as bad people, are actually just people with treatable brain problems? This leads us to the single most important lesson Dr. Amen has learned from examining over 100,000 brain scans. You can change your brain. And when you do, you change your life. You're not stuck with the brain you have. You can genuinely make it better, and he can prove it. He shows us scan after scan of patients before and after treatment. A teenager with ADD who was failing school and cutting herself. Her brain becomes healthier, and she starts getting A's and B's. A retired NFL player whose brain was ravaged by years of brutal concussions follows a brain-smart program and shows significant improvement in blood flow, mood, and memory. Perhaps the most remarkable story is Nancy's. Her husband Ray, a former NFL player, brought her to the clinic. She'd recently been diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia, a devastating illness with no known cure. Her doctor told Ray that within a year, she wouldn't even recognize his name. Her brain scan was, in Dr. Amen's words, an absolute disaster. But instead of giving up, they launched an intensive brain rehabilitation program, the same one we'll explore in just a bit. 10 weeks later, her follow-up scan showed dramatic improvement. Her memory and cognitive function were better. 5 years later, Nancy still knew Ray's name. They'd become brain warriors, actively fighting a war for the health of her brain. This concept of being a brain warrior is absolutely central to Dr. Amen's philosophy. We're living in a world that's constantly trying to damage our brains. Food companies engineer addictive, toxic products. News outlets bombard us with horrific events on an endless loop. Our gadgets are designed to hook us and interfere with our relationships. To be healthy in this environment, you have to fight for it. You need the mindset of a warrior. To be a brain warrior, you need to understand the battlefield. The book takes us on a fascinating tour of the 5 major brain systems that essentially run your life. Think of these as the main control centers in your head. First up is the limbic system, your brain's emotional core. Located deep in the center, this is where you process emotions, form bonds with others, and store your most emotionally charged memories. It's the seat of both love and depression. When your limbic system is healthy and balanced, you tend to be positive, hopeful, and connected to others. But when it's overactive, It's like wearing dark-tinted glasses that color everything with negativity. Sadness takes over. This is what happens with depression, and even with severe PMS. Dr. Amen tells the story of Michelle, a nurse who, during the week before her period, would become so irritable and irrational that she left her husband 3 separate times. On the 3rd occasion, she actually attacked him with a knife. Her SPECT scans showed that during that time of the month, her limbic system was blazing with activity, completely hijacking her emotions and turning her into a different person. With treatment designed to calm this system, she regained control. The prescription for an overactive limbic system isn't just medication. One of the most powerful tools is something Dr. Amen calls ANT therapy. ANTs are automatic negative thoughts, those cynical, gloomy, self-critical thoughts that just pop into your head uninvited and ruin your entire day. Thoughts like, he's going to leave me, or I'll never be good enough, or this is going to be a disaster. Here's the thing. Every time you have a negative thought, your brain releases chemicals that make you feel terrible. But every time you have a positive, hopeful thought, it releases chemicals that make you feel good. The key is recognizing that your thoughts aren't always telling you the truth. They often lie. ANT therapy is about learning to identify these negative thoughts and talk back to them. When you think, my boss doesn't like me, you challenge it. I don't actually know that. Maybe she's just having a rough day. By challenging these ANTs, you strip away their power and begin to calm down your overactive limbic system. Another simple prescription? Gratitude. Focusing on what you're thankful for literally rewires your brain for the better. Next, we journey to the basal ganglia. These are large structures deep in your brain that help integrate feelings, thoughts, and movement. Dr. Amen has found they're also critical in setting your body's baseline anxiety level. When the basal ganglia are overactive, you're more likely to feel anxious, nervous, tense, and to automatically predict the worst-case scenario in every situation. This is ground zero for panic attacks. Dr. Amen actually shares his own experience of having a panic attack in the green room at CNN, right before his first major television appearance. His heart was racing, he felt like he couldn't breathe, and all he wanted to do was bolt out of the studio. But he remembered what he tells his patients. He used 4 simple steps. First, breathe. Slow, deep, diaphragmatic breathing sends a powerful, calming signal straight to your brain. Second, don't run away. Leaving the situation only teaches your brain to be more afraid next time. Third, write down your thoughts and challenge them. Kill those fortune-telling ANTs. He was thinking things like, I'm going to forget my own name, and 2 million people are going to think I'm an idiot. He talked back to these ridiculous thoughts and disarmed them. And fourth, if needed, use calming supplements or medications. These strategies, especially deep relaxation and hypnosis, help soothe those overactive basal ganglia. From there, we move to the front of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, or PFC. This is the most evolved part of your brain, essentially your internal CEO or executive control center. It's responsible for focus, planning ahead, judgment, impulse control, organization, and goal setting. It's your conscience, the part that supervises your behavior and helps you actually learn from your mistakes. When the PFC is working well, you're effective and goal-directed. When it's underactive, you struggle. This is the core problem in most types of attention deficit disorder. Dr. Amen's research was absolutely groundbreaking here. He discovered that for many people with ADD, the harder they try to concentrate, the worse it actually gets. A SPECT scan shows that when they attempt a concentration task, their prefrontal cortex literally shuts down. This is why telling someone with ADD to just try harder is like telling someone who needs glasses to just squint harder. It doesn't work. They have a biological problem that needs real support. People with low PFC activity are often inattentive, distractible, disorganized, and impulsive. They might say or do things without thinking, struggle with chronic procrastination, and repeat the same mistakes over and over. Many also unconsciously seek out conflict. Yelling, arguing, creating drama. These things provide a jolt of adrenaline that temporarily fires up their underactive PFC and helps them feel more focused. They're not doing it on purpose, but they become almost addicted to the turmoil. The prescription for a sluggish PFC involves things that boost a neurotransmitter called dopamine. This can include stimulating supplements like green tea or rhodiola, or stimulant medications like Ritalin or Adderall. A higher protein, lower carbohydrate diet is also crucial. But one of the most powerful psychological tools is a goal-setting exercise Dr. Amen calls the one-page miracle. You take a single sheet of paper and write down exactly what you want in the 4 major areas of your life: relationships, work, money, and yourself. You look at this page every single day. This simple act keeps your PFC laser-focused on your goals, guiding your daily decisions and actions. Then we go deep into the middle of the frontal lobes to a structure called the anterior cingulate gyrus, or ACG. Think of this as your brain's gear shifter. It allows you to shift your attention from one thing to another smoothly. It gives you cognitive flexibility, the ability to adapt, see multiple options, and go with the flow. When the ACG is overactive, often linked to low levels of the neurotransmitter serotonin, you get stuck. You get stuck on negative thoughts, like a rat trapped on an exercise wheel. You get stuck on negative behaviors. You hold grudges. You become rigid, argumentative, and oppositional. You worry endlessly. This is the brain pattern behind obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD. We meet Gail, a woman trapped in the private hell of OCD. She'd clean her house for hours every single night. She'd scream at her family if anything was even slightly out of place. Her brain scan showed her ACG was blazing hot. With treatment designed to boost her serotonin and calm this part of her brain, she was finally able to relax and reclaim her life. The prescriptions for an overactive ACG involve boosting serotonin through smart carbohydrates, exercise, or supplements like 5-HTP or St. John's wort. Psychologically, the key is learning to recognize when you're stuck and then consciously distracting yourself. Get up, do something completely different, and come back to the problem later. Finally, we explore the temporal lobes, located on the sides of your brain, right underneath your temples. These are essentially your memory banks. They're involved in understanding language, storing long-term memories, and controlling your temper and mood stability. The left temporal lobe is often linked to language and logic, while the right is more involved in recognizing facial expressions and emotional tone. Problems in the temporal lobes can lead to memory issues, mood swings, irritability, and aggression. Because of their location near those sharp, bony ridges inside the skull, they're incredibly vulnerable to injury. Dr. Amen's research found that among people who'd physically assaulted others, over 70% had abnormalities in their left temporal lobe. We meet Blaine, a 60-year-old man who was moody, aggressive, and had frequent memory lapses. He'd see shadows and hear buzzing sounds. When he was 5, he'd fallen headfirst onto a pile of bricks. His SPECT scan showed significant damage to his left temporal lobe, likely from that childhood accident. With an anti-seizure medication to stabilize this brain region, his temper, dark thoughts, and strange sensory experiences completely disappeared. Treatment for temporal lobe problems often involves stabilizing the area with certain medications or supplements, practicing anger management techniques, and consciously creating and focusing on a library of wonderful memories to build a positive personal history. Understanding these 5 systems reveals why so many people struggle. But what happens when multiple systems are involved? That's where Dr. Amen's work on the different types of disorders becomes incredibly powerful. Take ADD, for example. We've talked about classic ADD, low PFC, and overfocused ADD, low PFC, plus an overactive ACG. The treatment is completely different. Stimulants help classic ADD, but they often make overfocused ADD dramatically worse, ramping up the worry and rigidity. This was exactly the case with Cody, an 8-year-old boy who became explosive and suicidal on Adderall. His brain scan revealed he had over-focused ADD. He needed a treatment that would boost both his dopamine and his serotonin, not just one. Similarly, there's temporal lobe ADD with temper and memory issues, limbic ADD with chronic sadness, anxious ADD with tension and nervousness, and the ring of fire ADD, where the entire brain is overactive and stimulants are almost always a disaster. The same principle applies to anxiety and depression. There isn't just one type of depression. There are at least 7, each with a different brain pattern requiring a completely different approach. You can have pure anxiety overactive basal ganglia, pure depression overactive limbic system, a combination of both, or types complicated by problems in the ACG, temporal lobes, or PFC. This is the missing link that explains why so many treatments fail. We've been treating symptoms instead of the underlying brain patterns. Dr. Amen's method is about identifying the specific pattern and then personalizing a 4 circles treatment plan. This means addressing the issue from every possible angle. 1. Biological. This is the physical functioning of your brain and body. It includes targeted supplements or medications, proper nutrition, and regular exercise. 2. Psychological. This is about your mind and your thinking patterns. It includes therapies like killing the ANTs, challenging those automatic negative thoughts. 3. Social. This is about your relationships and your environment. It includes spending quality time with healthy people and learning effective communication skills. 4. Spiritual. This is about your sense of meaning and purpose. It involves connecting to something larger than yourself. With this knowledge, you have a complete blueprint for becoming a brain warrior. It's basically a 12-step program for reversing illness and exploding your potential. It starts with developing brain envy. You have to genuinely love and care for your brain. Get to know it. If possible, get it scanned. Or at least take a detailed assessment to understand your specific vulnerabilities. Then, you must know and actively reduce your risks. Dr. Amen provides a comprehensive checklist for Alzheimer's risk factors. Things like head injuries, alcohol abuse, depression, obesity, high blood pressure, and diabetes all dramatically increase your risk. Eliminating these risks is a core part of the warrior's way. Next, you must eat right to think right. The Brain Warrior diet isn't about deprivation. It's about abundance. It's about choosing high-quality, clean foods that actually fuel your brain. The rules are straightforward. Drink plenty of water. Focus on lean protein and smart carbohydrates. Eat healthy fats. Eat from the rainbow of natural colors. And avoid sugar, processed foods, and anything artificial. Food is either medicine or poison. You choose. You must also work both your brain and your body. Lifelong learning creates new neural connections in your brain. And physical exercise is hands down the single most important thing you can do for your brain's health. It boosts blood flow, reduces stress, improves mood, and even helps grow brand new brain cells. You need to actively soothe your stress, protect your blood vessels by avoiding things like excessive caffeine and nicotine, and reduce inflammation throughout your body. And you must be strategic about supplements, using them to target your specific needs. Finally, you must build a team of people who genuinely support your health, and you must know your motivation. Why do you want to be healthy? For your family? For your career? To fulfill your purpose? Find your anchor image, a picture of someone or something you love deeply, and post it somewhere you can see it every single day. This is your why. This is the program that has helped thousands of people, from everyday individuals to professional athletes. The most exciting part of the research on NFL players wasn't just discovering the damage, it was proving that it could be reversed. With this program, 80% of players showed significant improvement in brain function, memory, and mood. If these men, who subjected their brains to tens of thousands of violent collisions over their careers, can heal their brains, just imagine what you can do. The final message of the book is one of immense hope and personal responsibility. We're not just victims of our genes or our past. The brain is a dynamic, constantly changing organ. The choices we make every single day, what we eat, how we think, who we spend time with, how much we move, are either hurting our brain or helping it heal. Andrew's story isn't just about a boy and a cyst. It's a question about the very essence of who we are. Was the real Andrew the violent, angry boy, or the sweet, kind one who returned after his brain was healed? Dr. Amen believes the real us is the best version of ourselves, the person we are when our brain is working right. The journey of changing your brain is the journey of becoming who you were always meant to be. As we wrap up our journey through Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, it's worth pausing to reflect on just how profound this book's central idea really is. For generations, we've been taught to completely separate the mind from the body. Mental problems were seen as failures of character, willpower, or spirit. They were something to be ashamed of, to hide away, something that made you crazy or weak. What Dr. Daniel Amen did was take that stigma and absolutely shatter it with hard science. By showing us the actual pictures, the real images of how conditions like depression, ADD, and OCD physically affect the organ of the brain, he completely reframed the conversation. He turned mental health into brain health. And that simple shift changes absolutely everything. Suddenly, these aren't moral failings. They're medical problems. An overactive limbic system isn't a sign that you're just a negative person. It's a biological issue, like having high blood pressure. An underactive prefrontal cortex doesn't mean you're lazy. It means your brain's CEO is asleep at the wheel and desperately needs support. This perspective doesn't offer an excuse for bad behavior. Instead, it offers an explanation that actually leads to a solution. It replaces judgment with compassion and hopelessness with a clear, actionable path forward. The most powerful lesson for me, and I think for anyone who reads this book, is the incredible sense of agency it gives you. You're not a passive victim of your brain's wiring. You're the chief architect of its future. The concept of brain envy, the desire to have a better, healthier brain, is a brilliant psychological tool. Once you've seen a healthy brain next to a damaged one, you can't unsee it. You start asking yourself a simple, life-altering question before you make any choice. Is this good for my brain or bad for it? That one question can completely change the trajectory of your entire life. It makes you think twice about the junk food, the extra drink, pulling an all-nighter, indulging negative thought patterns, or staying in toxic relationships. Because now you truly understand the stakes. You're not just making a choice for the moment. You're making a choice that either builds up your brain reserve for the future or steadily depletes it. If there are just a few simple actions you can take away from our time together today, let them be these. First, become an ANT eater. Start paying attention to your automatic negative thoughts. Just for today, catch one of them. Write it down and ask yourself, is this thought actually true? Challenge it. You'll be genuinely surprised at how much power you take back. Second, feed your brain well. You don't have to overhaul your entire diet overnight. Just add one brain-healthy food today. Have a handful of walnuts, toss some spinach into your meal, or snack on a few blueberries. Every small, healthy choice is a vote for a better brain. And third, move your body. Go for a brisk 20-minute walk. Exercise is hands down the quickest way to boost blood flow, release feel-good neurotransmitters, and clear your mind. It's truly the fountain of youth for your brain. Change Your Brain, Change Your Life is so much more than just a book about neuroscience. It's a manual for actually living, a roadmap for taking real control of the very organ that creates your reality. It teaches us that our brains are not fixed, and therefore, neither are our destinies. That was a summary of Change Your Brain, Change Your Life by Dr. Daniel G. Amen. We've explored the core ideas today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only take you so far. The real magic happens when you dive into the book yourself. It's in those quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple prescription clicks with your own life in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to give you a map, to help you decide if this journey is right for you. If anything we've talked about today has sparked a curiosity, or even just a glimmer of hope, I genuinely encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning facts. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself, your struggles, and your potential. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to continue exploring the world's most transformative books, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track, and make sure you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the Billionaire's Bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.